Here's what most agents do when they need to explain something important. They send a long text, they send a messy email, they make a rushed phone call, or they wait too long and let the client sit in complete confusion. This is weak communication, and weak communication kills trust. One of the reasons why I'm able to move faster and communicate better in my business is because I use Loom constantly. Weekly seller updates, CMAs, price comparisons, hard conversations. I record about 3 to 5 Looms every single day. At the time of this recording, I've already sent off 9 Loom videos this morning. It's incredible. And this tool has become a major part of how I deliver a better client experience without wasting any time. I've been in residential real estate since 2002, and I'm still an active agent. I'm taking on listings, still working with buyers every single day. And I can tell you with a ton of confidence, Loom is one of the most useful tools in my business. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I use it, where I use it, why it works so well in real estate, and how you can start using it right now today. Let's get into it. Number 1, why Loom is so powerful in real estate? Well, the first thing you need to understand is Loom is not just a video tool. It's a clarity tool. And in real estate, clarity matters because our job is not just to pass along information. Our job is to help people understand what that information really means. See, a seller does not just want numbers. They want context. A buyer does not just want to list their house. They want guidance. A homeowner does not just want to know what their house might be worth. They want to understand how you got there and what you're going to do. And that is where Loom becomes incredibly useful. Sometimes typing is too flat. A live phone call is too disruptive. A Google Meets or a Zoom call is just too much. And an in-person meeting is not always necessary. But a quick Loom hits the middle perfectly. It lets me explain something properly on my timing in a calm and structured way. Then the client can watch it on their timing, replay it, forward it to their spouse, and come back with better questions. I'll give you a live example. 2 days ago, we had a multiple offer situation. I had 2 different sellers, so it was an estate sale. So it was 2 daughters. One lived on the West Coast and one was close to me on the East. And I had to send out a message about what was happening in advance of presenting the multiple offer. So I sent a Loom video sharing with the sellers all of the showings we had, what time we were presenting, how the offers looked, and how we were going to make sure we got top dollar. This was amazing because if I just sent an email, there would have been questions back and forth. If I had to book a phone call, trying to align a time with someone on Pacific time zone when I'm on Eastern time zone, and then the other sister's busy schedule, it would have just been a mess. The next day when I presented the offers, the clients were just thrilled getting the update from me the night before. They could review it. One of them said they watched it 2 or 3 times to really understand what was happening. That video took me less than 3 minutes to record. Huge advantage and time saver. Here's another reason why I like it. It helps you scale communication without making it feel less personal. That's the key. I'm not talking about sending generic, canned junk. I'm talking about relevant, thoughtful, clear communication in a format that respects both your time and your client's time. And that's why it works so well. And by the way, I'm in the process of building a private community for residential agents just like you who want to scale without burning out. If you want more time, better systems, and a predictable business year over year, instead of this constant feast or famine, I'll drop a link below. Be sure to check it out. No pressure, just something I'm building for agents who want to work smarter, not longer. All right, my second point. I use Loom for weekly seller updates. This is one of the most practical ways I use it, and probably the first introduction to Loom, maybe a decade ago, is I would use them exclusively for market updates for my sellers. So if you've been on the listing side of the business long enough, you already know this. One of the fastest ways to lose your seller's confidence is poor communication after the listing goes live. The home hits the market, the seller is watching everything. They're wondering what buyers are saying. They're waiting for feedback. They're checking their phone. And if they do not hear from you clearly, they start creating their own story. That's dangerous. So one of the things I adopted early on in my career is I started to use Loom-based weekly seller updates. Now, not every single update has to be a Loom. Please don't get me wrong. But when I want to walk them through something properly, Loom is incredibly effective. And I do this on a weekly basis. Right now on Wednesdays is when I'm providing my seller weekly update. What am I covering in these updates? Well, it's really 4 things. What activity is happening, what feedback came in, what the competition is doing, and my interpretation of what this means. That last part matters because sellers do not just want raw information. They're hiring you for your experience and your interpretation on the market. Typing out in an email this type of update, we had 6 showings, no offers. That can feel cold. But saying on a video, here's what happened last week. We had 6 showings. The feedback was generally positive, but there is a pattern. I want to show you. Buyers like the home, but they're comparing it closely to these 2 other properties. Let me show you what I mean. See, that lands very differently. Now they hear your voice. There's tone, there's excitement, there's pausing. They see you on the screen. They feel guided and they stay calmer. This is what good listing communication looks like. It also makes the harder conversation easier later because you've been communicating all along. You're not disappearing for a week and then suddenly showing up with bad news. That's what amateurs do. Loom helps you stay visible, clear, proactive, and consistent. So your move today, record 1 seller update this week using Loom instead of typing it out and walk the seller through activity, feedback, competition, and the next steps. Number 3, I use Loom to review my CMAs. This is another huge one. See, a lot of agents build a comparative market analysis and then just email that over as a PDF with no explanation, or they try to explain everything in an email. I think there's a better middle ground. I love using Loom to review my CMAs because it lets me walk the client through my thinking, how I came up with the range that's on my mind. It's not just a blank number. And that is where you build the trust because sellers are not hiring you to send comps. They're hiring you to interpret the market. So when I do a Loom around my CMA, I walk them through things like why I chose these comparables, how I weighed more heavily on this property to that property, how I'm thinking about the condition of the property, what I think about the location, and how I'm adjusting for layout, parking, updates, lot, or whatever matters most, and where I believe the property should be positioned in this current market. That makes a CMA much more persuasive. It stops being a plain PDF and it becomes a guidance tool. And the beauty of this is the client can watch it with their spouse, rewatch the important part, and actually absorb the logic without feeling rushed. This is a real edge because in live meetings, people miss things. Stuff gets emotional. They anchor on the highest sale. They stop listening the second they hear a number they do not like. But with a Loom, I can explain it cleanly and clearly from the beginning. That does not replace a listing appointment. It strengthens it. And in some cases, it helps me win the listing before I even walk in the door because they already see how I think. Your move today, take your last CMA and record a 3 to 5 minute Loom video explaining why you chose those comps and how you arrived at that price range. This is practice. You're not going to forward it on to the sellers. You're practicing because practice makes perfect. So the more you practice and become comfortable recording these Looms, the easier it will get. Trust me. Number 4, I use Loom to explain price comparisons. This is where Loom becomes incredibly valuable. One of the hardest things to explain to a seller is not just what their home is worth, it's why buyers compare it differently than the seller does. That can be a very hard conversation if you're trying to do it casually over text or in a rushed call. This is where I'll pull up active listings, recent sales, sometimes photos, and walk them through the actual comparison. I might say something like this. Here's your home. Here's the one down the street. Here's where I think buyers are going to give the property more credit. Here's where the property has the edge. And here's why at this price point, I think we need to be careful. See, that's powerful because now the seller is not just hearing your opinion, they're seeing the marketplace through your lens. That changes everything. And this is also where the Loom highlight or pencil tool becomes really useful. You can circle features, you can highlight a kitchen, you can draw attention to a backyard, you can underline pricing gap, show the difference between what the seller feels and what the buyer is likely to notice. This is one of the reasons why I like the paid version of Loom. The free version, that works, absolutely, and that's where I started, and likely if you're new to this, you're gonna start there as well. However, I personally like the paid version because of the drawing and highlighting tool function that allows me to do it in my presentation. It's just how I communicate. especially in real estate, where visual explanation matters. Sometimes the fastest way to explain value is to point right to this area and circle it. This is what the buyers are comparing you against, and circle it. That's where Loom stops being just convenient. It becomes a sales tool. So your move today, record one Loom using active and sold comparables and explain the value visually instead of trying to defend the price alone through email. Number 5, I use Loom for hard conversations. This is one of the underrated uses. There are certain conversations where I do not want to be rushed. I want it to be thoughtful. I want it to be clear. And I want the client to hear exactly what I mean. That might be a pricing reset, a strategy change, feedback after a slow week, why I think the property is missing the mark, or why I disagree with the seller's expectations. Now, to be clear, Loom does not replace every hard conversation. Sometimes you absolutely need to pick up the phone. Sometimes you need to meet in person, but Loom is an excellent bridge. It helps me frame the issue properly. It lowers the emotional temperature and it lets me explain the logic before the real-time conversation. For example, if a listing is not getting the response it should, I would send a Loom saying, I want to show you what I'm seeing right now in the market because I think this will help frame our next conversation around strategy. See, this is a very different energy than calling out of the blue and saying, we need a price drop. No one wants that. This one feels thoughtful. The other feels abrupt and pushy. This distinction matters. Good agents do not just know what to say, they know how to deliver the message. And Loom helps you deliver that quickly. It lets you be calm, direct, visual, and intentional. This is incredibly useful when the conversation is sensitive. So your move today, think of one conversation you've been putting off and record a Loom that calmly frames the issue and your recommendation before you jump on a call. I'm going to give you an example. After this recording, I'm going to record a Loom for clients who lost out on a multiple offer last night. They lost out on that deal, not because they were the lower price, but because their original offer had a first refusal in it, conditional on the sale of a property. They took that condition out once they were in a competing situation. That made the seller nervous, so they didn't go with their offer. Now, my buyers are going to be disappointed about that, and that would be a difficult conversation to try and explain over an email. And if I were to call them, I might be interrupting them. They might be at work. So I'm going to record the Loom video, explain to them how we need to be careful next time we offer on a property. If we don't need the condition on the sale of the property in the offer, we probably shouldn't have it in there from the beginning. So that is what I'm going to do right after this recording, give you a live example. That's a hard conversation. And I want the tone to be in there so my clients can actually feel it. Number 6, why clients actually like it. Well, because this is not just about making your life as the realtor easy. Clients actually love this format. Why? Because it's easy for them to consume. They don't have to answer you in live time. They do not have to take notes quickly. They don't have to remember everything from one call. They can watch it when they're available, or they can forward it to a spouse or family member. They can replay it. They can pause it, and they can come back with better questions. This improves decision-making. It also makes you look more organized, more thoughtful, and more prepared because you're not just reacting to the moment, you're leading. And here's another truth. Loom reduces friction. Sometimes getting two people together, work schedules, childcare, timing lined up for a call is harder than it should be. A Loom gets the information in front of your clients quickly. That keeps momentum going when a live conversation might otherwise get delayed by a few hours or even a day. And in real estate, delays matter. So yes, Loom saves time, but more importantly, it keeps conversation and the momentum going. This is a real win. Number 7, how I keep my Loom effective. Now, let me give you a few practical rules because this is where agents can mess it up. Just because Loom is useful does not mean every Loom is good. Here's how I keep my videos effective. First, I keep them focused. Most Looms do not need to be that long. A lot of mine land between 1 to 5 minute range. If I need longer, fine, but I earn the length. Number 2, I know the point before I hit record. What is this Loom supposed to do? Update, explain, compare, frame the decision, lead into a call. If you don't know the purpose, you're just going to ramble on and on. Number 3, I get to the point fast. no wandering, no long wind up, no unnecessary setup. So this is how I do it. I tell them what I'm going to show, then I show it, and then I'm going to explain why I feel it really matters to them. Number 4, I use the screen intentionally. I open the tabs I need. I close the tabs I don't need. I know where I'm clicking, and I try to make the experience as easy to follow as possible. Number 5, I always end with a next step. Something like, take a look and let me know your thoughts. Watch this before we chat later today. After you review this, I think the next step is this. Let's use this as the basis for our conversation later today at 2 o'clock. That keeps the Loom from feeling like information just for the sake of information. It moves the process forward. So your move today, record a 2-minute Loom with one clear purpose, one clear takeaway, and one clear next step. Number 8, why this gives me leverage every day. This is the bigger point. Loom gives me leverage, not because it replaces relationships, because it improves how I communicate inside the relationship. It helps me explain things once, clearly. It helps clients understand me better. It helps me stay visible without being repetitive. And it helps me deliver a high level of service without every interaction turning into a phone call or a formal sit-down meeting. That matters when you're an active, busy agent. I work with a lot of people. I'm still in production. I'm running hard. And Loom helps me keep the quality of communication high without making the business slow down. This is the real edge, because one of the easiest ways to burn out in real estate is to make every conversation manual, live, and repetitive. Loom solves part of that. It doesn't replace skill, it amplifies it. And that is why I use it so much. Again, I record around 3 to 5 Looms every single day. Not because I like the tool for the sake of the tool, because this one actually helps me communicate better. And better communication leads to better trust. And better trust leads to better decisions. And better decisions leads to a larger business. So that is exactly how I use Loom in my real estate business. Weekly seller updates, reviewing my CMAs, explaining pricing comparisons, handling hard conversations, saving time, keeping momentum, and communication at a highest level. And if you're an agent and you're not using Loom properly yet, you're leaving leverage on the table. Again, the free version is perfect to start. Use it. And if you end up using it the way I do, you may want to look at the paid version. And if you're enjoying using it and seeing a better response with your clients, I'd encourage you to consider the paid version, especially for the highlight and pencil function. For real estate, I think those two are absolutely worth it, because in this business, agents who communicate clearly have a huge advantage. And Loom helps you do that in a way that is simple, scalable, and still personal. If this video showed you how I communicate, the next video will show you how I think. Because the reason these Looms work is not just a tool, it's the pricing logic behind the tool. It is knowing which comps matter. It's knowing how to explain price differences. It's knowing how to justify your recommendation without sounding uncertain. And that is exactly what I break down in my next video right here, how I do my CMA. If you want to get better at listings, better at pricing, and better at leading sellers with confidence, check it out right now.